I'll tell you what, this year has come and gone in a flash, and you might resonate with me here when I say that even though a great quality of presence can and has developed through maturing, and with that quality of presence, there's a greater awareness of being in the moment and savoring as many moments as possible, because we all know that that's all we ever have, the present moment. And yet even still, it seems throughout the aging process, the years fly by even quicker. I've wondered about that. What is that? Time slowing down and yet paradoxically speeding up. To be sure, the time expansions and contractions, these are a definite thing when you're constantly in the ceremonial initiatory portal, but that's not necessarily what I'm here to speak about, even though I certainly have a few musings on that. We've just come out of Vision Quest, and while you could consider Vision Quest to be a ceremonial initiatory portal, it's also a rite of passage. And I have mentioned distinctions between the two before, between an initiatory process and a rite of passage, which if you've been tuning in, you may have heard me speak to. One being more nebulous in terms of there's a start and yet no designated finish, which is an initiation, and that the other, through the word passage, actually denotes a start, a passage that we pass through, and a completion. And in terms of Vision Quest being a rite of passage, there's an invitation baked into that to acknowledge, to give thanks, to honor, to ceremonially mark the transition from one stage of life to another, to bear witness, to celebrate, to what has been, what we're letting go of, and what it is that we're calling forth, stepping into, and even proclaiming with our staff in the ground what it is that we are indeed claiming. And with the end of 2024 rolling around super quick, I felt it important to take a moment to acknowledge and celebrate this year and to share that with you, trusting that there will be some learnings and teachings and medicine offerings within my reflections. So, this past cycle has certainly been a big one for me in a really powerful way in terms of empowerment, reclaiming my power. And to help contextualize that, I reflect to seasons past when I was still quite a neophyte along this journey and feeling frustrated, irritated, depressed, deflated. I'd fall into cycles of feeling like I was spinning my wheels, but not really getting anywhere. I was grasping, and I was also playing the comparison game. I'm sure you've heard the saying, maybe you have heard the saying, comparison is the thief of joy. And yeah, perhaps there's a thread of truth in that little aphorism, but I think it's more so the judgment that comes after the comparison that brings the pity party. Comparison as an objective tool can be very useful, but it's when the judgment comes. That's the kicker. And back then I was wanting things to move quicker. I had trouble being here in the here and now present moment. And yeah, sure, everything unfolds in good time, like the flower that blossoms when conditions are right, or the caterpillar to the butterfly in the right season. But also, as creative beings, we can have a hand on the rudder or maneuver the paddle to steer our canoe in a way that's aligned to intentional action, purposeful behaviors that align us to our North Star. We're focused on our goals, to the greater vision that we might have. But back then, the distractions were many, the willpower, the discipline, these were still being cultivated. They're always being cultivated, but beginning of the journey. So the commitment wasn't there, the dedication, the discipline, the strengthening of the why in accordance with the clarification of the vision. It really wasn't until offering ceremony on our previous lands in the high country, and that was the first big manifestation of a vision. I called that property in a dream. Shamanic anchoring from the future into the present moment. Visualization, actionable steps to make it all happen. And it was back then that the seeds of change really started to take root. Stewarding 14 acres, TP ceremonies, sweat lodge, initiatory practices and processes, organic homegrown produce, mountain living, and a grassroots sanctuary for healing and awakening began to flourish. And after pouring blood, sweat, tears, prayers, hard work, heart and soul into that place, after 4 years, we were forced to move on as our landlords had sold up. The new owners, they wanted to move in straight away. However, a new vision had already started to move through me before all of that had eventuated. And fast forward, or backtrack, depending on how you want to look at it, to the start of 2024. And this has been a year that has brought significant change. It's the year where everything has changed in a very powerful way. My journey of making primitive friction fire for 101 days in a row, every single day, was a huge catalyst for this. If you've tuned in, I'm sure you've heard me speak about it probably numerous times, and I really can't understate just how powerful this was for me. And from the outside looking in, someone might say, wow, that's cool, rubbing 2 sticks together to make an ember and then placing that ember in fibrous material and adding oxygen to it so it combusts into a flame, into fire. That's cool. And yeah, sure, a surface level perception, but it has been, it was, it still is so much more than that. And that journey really activated a deep and intimate spiritual fire within. Personal power, luminous vision, creative expansion, unwavering commitment, passion, razor-sharp focus, katana-like execution, burning away and transmuting dysfunctional stories and identities. And really, it felt like riding strong upon this fiery stallion's back of taking action and staying aligned to mission, vision, purpose, health, vitality. And since the culmination of that entire journey that finished up at the start of this year, it's been full power. Now, I mentioned that I've only just come back home after 8 days in the wilderness hosting Vision Quest. A group of questers, they've all made the return journey at this stage, and after receiving all of their stories as part of the reincorporation, the return, the integration process, stories of their time out in the mountains, I feel confident saying that the song of healing, awakening, and renewed vision is fresh in their step, and there'll be good medicine gifts, good offerings brought to themselves and also to their people. 4 days, 4 nights, fasting, in solitude, in a small circle, out in the mountains. It's no small feat sacrificing the comforts of modernity in such a way for an intimate encounter with the wild. And as I say, many people hear the call, few take heed and follow through. The Vision Quest, the Wilderness Vigil, the Vision Fast, this has been one of the most powerful initiatory passage rites that I've apprenticed to. And after coming back from this one, I'm feeling inspired to already open up our next round of early birds for the next Vision Quest, April 2025, our autumn Wilderness Vigil in Victoria. So you're welcome to reach out for more info. And there'll be a bunch of links in the show notes that you can check out. Come follow me on social media at Kayuta Kiora. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. You can subscribe to the newsletter on my website where you get access to the free ebook, 13 Secrets of Becoming and Choosing a Visionary Medicine Facilitator. And you can also just send me an email introducing yourself, asking for more information. I'll get back to you in good time. Now, it's been over a decade since the start of my journey, this journey of healing, awakening, personal reflection, revelation, self-development, spiritual expansion, all this kind of stuff. And to be sure, I've spent considerable time now in the shamanic wilderness initiation world. So at the start of this year, we moved house. My body of work that was previously conducted largely from the teepee, that transitioned from the safety and the confines of the homestead to the chaotic unknown of these mountain wilderness areas. The pilgrimage, shamanic wilderness expeditions, this was officially born in March. And since then, we have had 5 iterations of it. 4 in Victoria, in various locations, and 1 in the Byron hinterlands of New South Wales. I've come to see it as a high caliber convergence of the shamanic healing arts for awakening and higher consciousness, nature awareness skills, wilderness immersion, community regeneration, mountain trekking, spirituality, mysticism, these kind of themes. New friendships have formed, community threads have expanded in many different directions, support is bubbling up in many different ways, and really I am very humbled that so many of you can feel the potency of this prayer that I have been anchoring in, and the way that this work, Spirit, has been moving through me, and that many of you have been stepping forth to join me, to join in on this journey. Talking about pilgrimage, if you've been tuning in, you're likely aware that I recently made my own personal pilgrimage up to the Central Australian desert for the first time ever. I sat my own vision quest up there, atop red desert, sandy dunes, fasting in the scorching heat, having mystical encounters with the spirit of the wind and faces in the stone, and making space for continued intimate conversations with self and creator. And I'm not going to talk about that now. If you want to hear more, I shared that journey in depth on the previous episode of this podcast. Traveling, interstate, that's been a theme, and tour guide work has had me traveling across the country. First, at the start of this year, the mountains of Victoria, exploring the Vic Highlands and the Grampians. Shortly after that, 2-week tour through the wilds of the South Australian desert, where I had some powerful initiations into wedge-tail eagle medicine, which I'm still keeping very close to my heart, and had plenty of insightful yarns with local mob about dreamtime stories, initiation, paranormal encounters in and around the desert mountains of the Ikara Flinders Ranges and the Vulkatuna Gammon Ranges. And it's been back to back recently, with my Red Desert Central Oz trip, the pilgrimage, followed by this recent 2-week trip guiding a group up the east coast of Australia, where we visited some epic national parks, the dingoes of Gari, formerly Fraser Island, ocean rafted out to the white sandy beaches of the Whitsunday Islands, snorkeled the Barrier Reef, heaps of cool stuff. And out of all of that, it's really easy for me to say that kayaking with the humpback whales was a real highlight. This was a spiritually profound experience for me. There was a spark of remembrance of my ancient Filipino blood lineage ancestors and their seafaring reverence and connection with the whales that once was. When I returned home, looking at my bookshelf, I caught a glimpse of Scott Taylor's book, Souls in the Sea, Dolphins, Whales and Human Destiny. And it feels like there's an invitation there for a re-exploration of cetacean consciousness and the wisdom of these sea souls and our connection with these creatures from times long gone, and how we can rehydrate that connection, perhaps in some way moving forward. My recent fitness training program. This tested my mental fortitude in a big way. Hitting the gym, yeah, that's the easy part. It was the rapid reduction of caloric intake that eventually made me irritable, fatigued, cognitively drained. Add on anywhere from 10,000, 12,000, 15,000 steps a day. And then also my desert pilgrimage and quest, our Grampians iteration of the pilgrimage, which all fell within the confines of this time frame of this new training program. And there was some big invitations there to tap into endurance, perseverance, discipline, strengthening the why for the vision. And really this new program, it gave me the accountability and the focus to lose 8.5 kilograms of body fat, water weight, while also increasing strength in the gym, building lean muscle mass. And throughout this journey, I've felt this as creating another foundation or a foundational pillar of personal power through enacting the vision of having a strong, functional, mobile, flexible, aesthetically pleasing body, which is something that I've been calling in for years now. So many of us do. And yet so many of us fall back upon this phrasing of someday I'll get to that. We probably know the old saying there, someday is some kind of plague that we all take with us to our graves. My 30-day ice bath challenge at the start of the year, ice baths every single day for 30 days. I love that. That was the start. Well, that really paved a path to regular cold thermogenesis sessions. Thermogenesis sessions. That's hard to say. Thermogenesis sessions, which really has done my body a world of good with its ability to recuperate after heavy training sessions and also to recuperate from injuries, including my crushed finger, which happened throughout my friction fire journey and weightlifting journey at the start of this year. But yeah, the cold thermogenesis, the ice baths, that really was another foundational pillar that kicked off this year nice and strong. And speaking about body work, a new tattoo was on the cards and I ended up marking my body for the first time in over 10 years. I was inspired to channel my own meaningful art design after coming across some of the traditional Bisayan and Kalinga tattoo culture of the Philippines some years ago. And the left side of the body is often linked to the feminine characteristics, energetic qualities and expressions, hence the marking of my left leg, symbolizing that connection to my mother's heritage, which is where the Filipino side of me comes from. And then speaking of tattoos, after years of rumination, I finally started a laser tattoo journey of fading a few tattoos so I can eventually rework those body parts, re-tattoo over them. And I'm using a numbing cream. It's the first time I've ever used a numbing cream. And I'm going to keep using that for this part of my tattoo journey. And thank goodness for that, because even with the tattoo cream applied, some of the spots, that painful zap, yeah, I could still feel it coming through even with the tattoo numbing cream applied. Now, social media. I upped my social media game in a big way this year. And even though I didn't increase my audience size anywhere near as much as I thought I might have, or in alignment to the goal that I was calling in. And that has offered plenty of opportunities for reflection and iteration, what's working, what's not. I released 13 episodes on this podcast. This is the 14th for 2024, which has been great. And despite the slow digital growth, it's been great to have the in-person boots on the ground gatherings and programs absolutely flourish. The creative wellsprings from which all of this has been birthed from, they are still bubbling, really strong. The key here has been knowing what to focus on, what to allocate my attention to, and really to harness that sharp katana that I was speaking about. The sharp katana to slice away the distractions. And my framework of consume, create, imaginate, that has been a great guiding star to ensure that I'm staying focused and not caving in to the endless distractions of modernity. And if you're not familiar with consume, create, imaginate, it's quite simple really. I'm not going to go into it in depth here, but essentially it is intentional consumption leading to intentional creation, and also the spaciousness to empty ourselves out as a hollow bone to imaginate, to allow the seeds of ideation, of new creation to come in. For the first 6 months of this year, part of my system of enacting the goal that I was going towards was to post a video 5 times a week on social media, on average, with the intention of working towards 50,000 as an audience size. I am but a mere fraction of that. However, a video that I posted on TikTok that got over 50,000 views. It's currently sitting at about 75,000 views. So look, it's funny where and how the metrics decide to show up. Maybe I wasn't clear enough there. I had to iterate on the goal. But anyways, it has been a great learning process, jumping back into social media in such a way, contributing to the digital landscape in such a way. And then also back to the boots on the ground work, it has been great to contribute to programs, gatherings outside of my own with friction fire workshops, and also mid-year in winter to take a pause with a couple of mates, midwinter, a multi-night trek through the snow-capped mountains of the Vic Highlands. And I would love to incorporate some more alpine snow trips in the seasons to come. Depends what the nature spirits say, depends what the nature spirits or creator has in store, what kind of creative vision wants to work through me, move through me in that regards. And to be sure, the nature spirits, the mountain spirits in particular, have been speaking with more clarity, much louder this year. And really, no surprise with all of the wilderness time, but also my in-depth exploration and apprenticeship to the Gateway tapes earlier this year. I feel as though that has certainly helped in some way with the further development of my extrasensory capabilities, esoteric faculties of mind. If you're not familiar, the Gateway tapes, the CIA, they published a report titled Analysis and Assessment of the Gateway Process, and this was back in 1983. And really what they were showing was that this process of hemisphere synchronization, which they called hemisync technology, this can trigger shifts in consciousness that allows someone to some degree, untether from physical reality and tune into greater metaphysical dimensional fields. And this document, many people know about it. It was declassified in 2003. It really discusses a whole bunch of practical techniques that help people that practice this manifest goals, convert energy to heal one's body, travel through space-time to access information, and also to access and cultivate various degrees of intuitive gnosis. And yeah, the tapes are unique, yet like other meditation and transcendental processes, the similarities are there, and those similarities are in shifting brainwave states from the normal waking state of beta to the more creative, restorative, intuitive brainwave states of alpha and theta. And this is where the subconscious mind is more easily accessible and also suggestible, and perhaps where also access to the more hidden realms of reality can become more easily accessible, more available. So that's that. It was only a few months ago that I put down my dog, Titan, a young German Shepherd. You'll be familiar with that story if you tuned into the last podcast where I was talking about the grieving process during my vision quest. And he was my best mate for the few years that we were together. I really can't remember the last time that I was faced with such heavy grief, and navigating that was deeply sorrowful for me. And yet that has been and was a holy burden that has brought a lot of beauty into my life, deepening me into the richness of life in such a way. And that was a decision that came from the responsibilities, the weight, the gravitas of responsibilities that a partner, a parent, a father, a king of a kingdom has to make, has to bear. And it can indeed be a holy burden at times, the gravitas of these decisions, responsibilities that we have to bear. Martin Shaw, he says it well. To live a soulful life, not a numb one, is to be aware of a certain degree of pain. And as an extension to that, expanding your awareness to take in the ever-flowing river of grief and sacrifice that forms part of the backdrop of the landscape of your life. This is an important thing. that we must embrace. Although I continue to make mistakes, and despite being away from home for a reasonable amount of time in recent times, I would like to think that I have learnt and anchored in some valuable teachings, learnt some new ways to be a better leader, a better parent, a better partner. My time away from the kids, it always reinforces that my time with them as children is limited, and to cherish these times as much as I can remember to do so. And it's been great to create a sense of harmony between spending time with the family, offering my gifts to community, personal exploration and creative expression, and really finding ways to anchor in this greater quality of presence that I was speaking about at the start of this podcast, this greater quality of presence when I'm with the kids and also when I'm working on my craft. And it's been really lovely to have stopped using what I have considered to be the negatively charged phrase of the forever challenge of finding harmony within these aspects of life, navigating the family, navigating my service to community, creative pursuits, all these kind of things. I just quite simply have chosen a different reality to operate out of. Part of that has been the systemization. Why am I struggling with that word? Systemizing, structuring, scheduling my life in such a way. This has been a necessity to allocate my time, my focus, my attention appropriately, accordingly. I had a recent vision during my vision quest out in the desert, and that vision was to bring the family to the last iteration of the pilgrimage and also this last vision quest that we hosted in the mountains. And bringing the family along to that presented a different layer, a more wholesome layer of village, of community, and the medicine offerings that such interactions can bring. The medicine and the gifts that are available for family to receive by being in that environment. And then, of course, everyone else, the participants, the rest of the community, bearing witness to the family dynamic within such a process. Yeah, it was a good thing indeed. And it feels like a nice foundation to continue to operate out of, and a vision to keep working towards and to keep expanding the village, expanding the community in such a way. On that note, in regards to family, it was a big deal to me that for the first time in my adult life, just recently, I expressed to my old man, to my dad, just how grateful I am that out of anyone, he's been my dad, and that I really value all the early experiences of him taking us out into the bush, camping as kids, and quite clearly laying a really solid foundation of nature connection for me to return to as an adult. And part of expressing my gratitude to him and saying all these things was that I said, I love you to him for the first time face to face since perhaps I was a tiny kid. I don't know, I can't even remember saying that as a tiny kid. And it's been a massive journey to get to this place, and a great thing indeed to get to this place and to be able to say that, to be able to express that before time has its way and the hour becomes too late. Because I know that's a thing. I know that's a thing, and it's something that I've been aware of. So yeah, beautiful indeed. There's a lot that's happened this year. There's more that I could speak to, but to round it out, this time next week, we will be in Indonesia, in Bali, for a month-long family holiday. We'll take the kids to swim with the turtles, to see the monkeys, experience Indonesian culture in various ways. I'm looking forward to eating chicken skewers, mee goreng, nasi goreng, fresh juices, coconuts, soaking up the sun, ocean time in the mountains, doing some fun activities with the kids. I'll also have some time to write and work on some new projects, and I'll also be dropping into a darkroom retreat as a birthday present to myself while we're over there. Classic Scorpio, darkroom retreat as a birthday gift. Look, it's been a huge year of manifestation, of taking action, of making things happen, of anchoring the vision and grounding it into the here and now reality. The winding path of 2024. As I said, it's led me to step into and reclaim my power in such a huge way. And here's the rub, here's the kicker. With the right skills and resources and support and vision, you can do it too. You can do it too. And it doesn't just happen overnight. It's taken me years of trial and tribulation and triumph to get to this point where I'm, as some people might say, living the dream or enacting the dream. If you need support with this, I'm currently creating something to assist you in anchoring the vision and grounding it into reality. So keep your eyes tuned in, keep your ears peeled, or is it your eyes peeled and your ears tuned in? However you want to phrase it. Look, sharpening your sword against adversity, this is how the exceptional are forged. The struggles, the setbacks, the discomforts, the challenges, the difficulties, all of these are necessary parts of the journey. We know this. And you need to be willing to go against the grain and endure risks. Endure the challenges. You need to be willing to make sacrifices that not everyone is prepared to make. Sacrifice, it's etched into the process. And really what I'm talking about, this is the path of true greatness, which is to say, the path of you feeling truly great about yourself in exploring your potential and what it is that you're capable of and enacting your own authentic soul path, your creative expression. Speaking and standing in your truth and sharing that with the world as a medicine gift, as a giveaway offering. The truth is, it is going to be hard to achieve greatness. You could say that you will never achieve greatness if you keep making the same poor choices every single day. You won't reach new heights by kicking stones around at the base of the mountain. The future you is depending on the current you to keep the promises you made to yourself yesterday. I love that little aphorism, that saying. The future you is depending on the current you to keep the promises you made to yourself yesterday. So, break the cycle, change your beliefs and behaviors, start moving toward the greater vision calling you forth. 2025, it's just around the corner. What does it really mean though? If we're not anchoring the vision into the forever, eternal, here and now moment. Thanks for being here. It's been a wild ride. I'm certainly ready for more. Come and join me on social media if you're not already connected there, @Kiora. Join the newsletter, keep a finger on the pulse of what's coming down the pipeline for 2025. I trust this episode has been fruitful, like birdsong on morning wind. I'm going to leave it at that. Thanks everyone. Until next time.